Um, I think the only challenge is just like finding. It's always hard finding times that everybody can agree on. But maybe you just you get some good protocols on how to find times, and you just say like, we'll try like try our best to accommodate everybody's schedule, and maybe not everybody can make particular times, and that's okay. It's just like, or maybe I don't know how you do it, but that's the only risk I can see. But I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, or maybe turn into a study group somehow, like for people to bring ideas of governance or things they are seeing in other projects, and um, start to have more debates that could eventually get in. But I don't know, maybe even like token engineering governance, because I just came from the governance guild, the T governance guild that changed direction a little bit. So there is a project like the DAO ecosystem health that is kind of ongoing. Sorry. I can turn the light here. Oh, okay, shukran. Sorry. Yeah, but um, there's one ongoing project there, but then there was this idea GUA proposed to start a junior token engineering gathering where people start discussing about their experiences of token engineering, and that's just an open discussion kind of thing that can have different prompts every week. And then Angela suggested, hi Septi.
Hey.
And Angela suggesting bringing over to the T Academy Discord. And then we had a brief chat of like, oh, that would be really great for the TC to have that on the Discord. But then she was talking about how there's a lot that has been it's on the works with Sample, and she's been chatting with you and Tam to find these bridges between T Academy and TC. But that is good to go slow and not rush, and that this is something that makes a lot of sense for T Academy to have this like junior T's discussing. And then we briefly talked about the token gate possibilities with T Academy, and it didn't sound like something I think it sounded like it doesn't go with the values of the T Academy, because they're all about like free open education, and then there's the T knowledge commons idea which would go more in that direction. So yeah, so I feel like maybe because we brought that up last Softgov call.
Yeah.
Chit chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that going back to your point about reducing the number of calls, I do feel like we are going into another period though that the cultural questions are going to start to become very important. Basically why? Because the economic layer is about to like get built up. We did some initial work on the economic layer with the ABC and all the parameters and things like that. And then we kind of just let it sit for a while. And now with Sampo, we're starting to kind of like pump up the economic layer. And so I think it's going to be important for the cultural layer to be there to kind of like keep that in check.
Yeah, for sure. I just don't know what is the best shape for that to take. If it's because I feel like less and less people have been engaging with SoftGov, because I think it's not so easy to jump in if you're a new person, because usually we're talking about things that are like more in-depth issues of the community. So maybe
Yeah.
there are other ways of cultural support we can think of. I think maybe a study group could be a good idea to hold, to to be grounding and like always there kind of thing. And then whenever there is topics that are affecting the community, they could come into discussion in the shape of this, like, we've been in depth looking into governance and into governance in relation to token engineering, and then slowly be able to offer solutions, also kind of like capacity build the TE governance. That's what I was thinking the TE governance guild was going to be all along, but I think we had different ideas of it. And then today it clicked for me, like, oh, it would be really great to have people discussing governance through the lenses of token engineering.
So the difference was you were thinking of it more like governance of the TEC, and the what Angela was thinking as like governance as part of token engineering, the field, and how that relates. Am I getting that right?
I was thinking more of the second, and Angela was thinking more to create a group for people that have hard skills and token engineering together and govern. I think that was more of it, like, um, yeah, be kind of a bridge to trainee programs uh, and have projects that people are working on. So I feel like, and then we briefly chatted about, like, if the T Academy is doing um, a junior token engineering debate, that maybe it would be interesting to do something here that is like governance and token engineering, and then bring Softgov more in this direction. But I don't know. It's just a thought.
Hi everyone. I was listening. I just wanted to share with you, Livy, that yeah, for me, like in my perspective, I think Softgov and this call is one of the actually most important calls for me and most important spaces. I think it's key because it's kind of like a space where things can be really important, things can be talked about, not just in culture but in governance. And I feel like there are still many topics around the community that they need to be talked about and they need to be discussed. And I feel that this is the space to do it. Maybe the thing is that maybe it's tricky to find those topics, right? And then maybe have people coming to the call and discussing them. Uh, but that's kind of my feeling. And as a suggestion, something that I've been thinking about, based on there was the sample funding proposal post on the forum, and Kojak, I don't really know him. I just saw his post there. He was suggesting on doing for the TC overall a SWOT analysis. Like looking at the different strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the TC. He was suggesting that like as an urgent action to do, thinking about the evolution of the economic layer for the TC. That first we should have this analysis done to have a better picture on the situation in regards to economic, to culture, to social aspects, to governance aspects. So I just thought that it was a really good idea, like to create this SWOT analysis. And my plan was, I haven't been able to contact you and maybe suggest that as a possible activity. And I think from that analysis, maybe you could focus, or this group could focus especially on the weaknesses, right? And the weaknesses are more like internal, so I think that would be more of a focus for the group, but also maybe for the threats that are more external to the TEC. And maybe that's a way to start gathering the different topics that are, like around the community. So yeah, I just wanted to share that and share my feeling. And yeah, I think this group is really, really important for everyone.
Yeah, I also
Thank
wanted
you.
to. Yeah, I to keep adding on this, like how to also get like more people joining the governance crew is like also like having like some kind of incentive. Doesn't have to be financial, but like when you come to Softgov, like you expect to analyze decisions that can affect the community, and hear from everyone, and then like having a better understanding of what's going on and how to make better decisions and also like push them. I think that would be something like would bring a lot of participation. And then also I also wanted to say, like, I know like in the last planning you said like you need a data scientist, and Rex actually like is a full-time data scientist, and he is wanting to jump full-time crypto before the end of the year, so maybe it's worth having a chat with him. I really don't remember what was the task you were demanding for, but he's in his real job. He's data scientist full time, so you might have a good call with him.
Nice. Oh, thank you guys for saying all that. That's very important for me to hear. I think insightful, and just having help to understand what is the best direction, like what would actually benefit the community. I would love to have more participation in the strategic thinking of Softgov. I doubt sometimes that my perception is a little. I think I'm doing this for too long, you know. Like I don't know if I would love to have just more eyes perspectives, and how can we. So this was really great that you said there, of like important topics that need to be discussed, and that maybe as a group we could prepare those topics for being discussed, understanding how they should be discussed, what is the possible impact they can have, who to bring to the conversation, how to frame the conversation. Do you have any topics you have in mind that, like, is there anything important you would like to talk and you feel like there's not space and attention necessary for it?
Yeah, so actually when I saw that Kojak's suggestion, I thought, yeah, I think it's a great idea. So I just created a Google Doc and started working on this SWOT analysis. And I started adding the different topics that I see in these four like categories. So what I can do is just like share it with you guys. I think I share it with Gideon at some point if I remember right. But maybe it's a good point, and maybe we can. I added there some topics, so maybe we can add more if you think it's a good idea, and maybe some conversation topics can come up from there. So just give me a second, and I'll share it.
It's amazing. Can you put in the agenda, please?
Yes. Just give me a second.
Thank you.
And Barry, yeah, you did. Oh,
Sorry, Gideon.
okay.
I'll just post it on the Discord channel because my computer is a little slow right now. So right now I'll do it from my phone, so it's easier.
Okay, great.
Sorry, Gideon. I think you were gonna say something.
Oh no, I was just gonna say you did share that within. I'm sorry, I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I will for sure.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think it was a good thing. It was on my to-do list to also share it with Levy, because I think it was really good idea for Softgov. But yeah, no worries. I know that's the thing, right? There's also tons of things happening at the same time, and sometimes it's maybe I feel not enough people getting involved, so we need to prioritize as well, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the main challenge because actually that was the intro question I was thinking about today. What is what is the best rhythm for your flow? Like how do you I think because I've been traveling for some time and my time zone changed, and now it has been happening a lot that I'm like in paradise spaces and then I can't really enjoy them or like put them on my flow and understand that that could will probably absolutely actually help me a lot to be coherent on my thoughts and my ideas and um, to be eloquent, to be connected. Like there are many values that I think that are outside of the screen and how they help the work happening and how can we integrate more of that into, or at least that was a question I was having for myself, and I was wondering if you guys feel the same, if you feel a low on productivity because of how many meetings have been happening, or um, like having time to just like, oh, I wish I had time to write, or I wish I had time for this, or I wish I had time for that. And how can we like witness the lack of engagement that meetings have been having? And maybe some meetings have more engagement than others, but like who are the people that are always coming? How can we introduce different proposals for how to engage with people, like what you just said, like this is something interesting and maybe Kojak would never make it to this meeting, but he has something great to add, and that's a message I didn't see, and you saw that message and you started a document for it and you're bringing these ideas, and maybe there's something great spinning out of there. And what is the best way to bring that up, communicate? I'll if you have thoughts.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think one of the biggest challenges is to find the way to figure out like the levels of involvement of people, um, in the different working groups, and the time and the energy that they want to put into that. I think that's really difficult to do, especially in this digital way that we're working on. So yeah, I think it's a challenge, and but also at the same time, I also think that if we're a few people, I think that could also be kind of an advantage for the TC, because it's easier to coordinate and to actually get things done. So maybe we're not getting the involvement we think we should for a reason, right? And maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we're getting enough time to actually plan things out. Like set really good and strong bases into what we're doing. So then when people start coming here, we are prepared for receiving them and for involving them in the different initiatives, right? But yeah, and it's good because I also feel like if you see it that way, it's like a big responsibility, right, for the people that are already here contributing, right? Because it's like we would need to set those bases for the TC to survive, right, and then to prosper and to become into what we want it to become. So for me, it's a really cool feeling, but it's a tricky one as well. And just so you know, I share the document on the channel.
Yeah, I'm gonna build on top of that because I think, yeah, there is an advantage to having a small group of people who really care and are very focused. And I think the question is, if those people are just making all the decisions, then that's not healthy, right? Like that's probably not good. But if that core group of people can serve as facilitators for opening up the space to broader governance, and I think that's an interesting model. Like, so what do I mean by that? I mean, like, there are these other tools, like Polis, I think is a really interesting tool, especially for Softgov, for getting basically, insights into people's sentiments, like where they are on particular issues. And, maybe it's tools like that allow a much broader range of people to participate in the Softgov issues, even if they don't have time to come to this meeting right here. It's like in this meeting, there's a group of people who are thinking about what are the questions that the community is wrestling with on the cultural front, and then how do we best get signal from the rest of the community.
Hi, Durgadas. Welcome. That is, yeah, that's a really great point. It feels like something is starting to make sense with a relief feeling. So maybe the question is, and I think that ties to what you said, choose optimists, analyze decisions that affect the community. And what you brought up there is the key, I think, of like identifying the topics that need to be discussed it's actually the hardest part. And how can we collect that feedback, even opening for what is the intake form kind of thing? Like how sorry, maybe the work of Softgov Group is to have people that are looking in the community for things that are in chats, for how people are participating in the forum, looking for contentious issues or for anything that rises of a perception of like, oh, I see this pattern happening, or I see this was challenging, or I see this, I see that, and then collect that information. And then during the Softgov meeting, having a brainstorm to how to approach that and what to do with that issue, like how to transform that into community, into a community participant in a way that the community participates. Yeah,
Yeah,
this.
this is awesome, Livy.
I guess just based on the name, it seems to me that that sort of data collection is a thing that I've long sought from the transparency group. So then maybe it's possible to do that and then be like, hey, SoftGov, here's the stuff we found. And then SoftGov could then use that as an actionable thing, right? So in my view, almost the entirety of information technology that I've worked in for the last 30 years is about, at the end of the day, what you're supposed to be doing is aggregating business intelligence, right? And so business intelligence in this situation would have to do with sort of the managing of the overall. So it seems like our transparency thing works in reverse. Like all the working groups give information to transparency and then they document it and so on. So I guess, from my perspective, I'm sort of considering the idea of maybe reversing the flow of that, or having, we actively recruit people like journalists and other people to look into the thing with a sort of critical eye, and be able to be like showing up then to people in the governance portion about, hey, these are things that are bubbling and so on. Maybe there are automated ways to do that too, but this is just my idea of it, so maybe others don't agree.
Yeah, maybe there is a culture report that could start to happen based on all that. Like things that we observe, and then we are documenting them. So there is a certain like data collection aspect, and then that data is analyzed, and then we strategize a possible route to go about them to the issues that feel more in need. And then from there we can have like a report of what happened in the last 2 weeks or something like that. Like, what is the state of the culture? What were the issues we had? How were they dealt with?
Well, and it's also true that I'm not only participating in this DAO, but in other DAOs. What you can see is there is a really big gap between the signal to noise thing. And lately I've been a little bit on a kick of, how do I get rid of the bystander problem, which creates that gap, So a thing happens and everyone's grumbling and so on. And we actually had this discussion as part of the Gravity training yesterday about deep democracy, where there's this stuff that's under the waterline and that iceberg, and how is it that you can sort of pull stuff under that, or how is it that you can make it so that stuff that's under the waterline becomes maybe more incrementally visible. So it might be helpful to look at that deep democracy sort of thing and make strategies about ways to approach the specific issues that are under the waterline, as a kind of a project of Softgov, and then maybe we can involve Gravity, involve transparency, and in addressing those specific things, so that then we get actionable data for the Softgov group to use.
I have a slightly different tangent, so if people want to keep talking about this one, I can wait.
I think like the idea is awesome. Honestly, I think it's super cool, but it's like the thing like don't resonate so much with me. Like it keeps adding to the budget. So, we are having like the same problem as we keep having. Like, yeah, those are things that are services that people is bringing to the TC, which is good. But then like the TC has this lack of financial power. So yeah, this is something like, of course, it's good to have, and it would benefit like the DAO, and would benefit also other DAOs. So I think like this is a token engineering thing, like would benefit like not only the TC, but the culture for future DAOs. And it's according to our covenant, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it's still pulling resources out of the common pool, which is expected at some point, because like the TC mechanism, like it's public goods. So yeah, just wanted to raise that. But yeah, overall, I think the idea is awesome.
Yeah, that actually builds exactly on where I was going with this. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. The token gating idea is like a perfect example of where these two vectors are meeting, right? One vector is the culture of the TEC, which is like really one of our most powerful assets, our most powerful resources is the culture. And then there's this other thing that has to happen right now, which is the financial, the economic layer has to develop. Otherwise, this all goes away. And so, I think we're in the early stages of kind of like the next iteration of the culture, where we need to weave these things together. We need to weave sustainability and culture together, so that we don't end up in a world where we ignore the sustainability and the whole thing collapses, or we allow the economic sustainability to just drive everything, right? Like we have with most corporations, right? Where it's like, who cares? So like, how do we start to deliberately move this community to a place where these two things come together in a marriage? To me, that's like the essence of the biggest challenge that we now face, is how do we bring these things together to create something new that honors the existing culture and builds on it in a way that allows us to thrive.
Well, and that's a thing that this specific tool set of trying to figure out reduce the gap of the bystander problem and some of these other things might be a thing that we can look at in Gravity too, because this is our literal idea, is to not only go into groups and resolve conflicts and other stuff, but as we do so, to identify specific issues, create tool sets to address those issues, and then be able to then sell them back to the larger clients that we're dealing with. Aragon is our current first client in that respect, but it would be great if we had some kind of thing where we could do pulse measuring, and that we looked under the waterline of that deep democracy thing and develop tools to address all these things. So I feel like that could be a very profitable thing that we could do. So, maybe that's a collaborative thing that we could do between TEC and Softgov and Transparency and Gravity together. So,
I think Gravity is a different case because Gravity has a clear product, and it's a product that can be sold kind of to other communities, and that's already what's happening. But then when we talk about things that are a public good within the TEC that don't really have an obvious way to be monetized, I guess, or sometimes monetizing it is against the ethos of the thing itself. I think that's kind of the challenge we're going through, right? Like a lot of the things we need to, a lot of the resources, the non-financial resources we have are based on an ethos that goes against the ways we know of commercializing them, kind of.
yeah, and it's still up in the air whether we just like monetize the tool set or we just monetize the expertise around the tool set, if you know what I'm saying. So that's a different thing entirely. I feel like we have enough expertise in here to take whatever that tool set is and apply it ourselves, right? But when I'm talking about going into a group that has no kind of culture like we have, it might actually be a thing you could sell to them. But my point is, it seems to me that there are things that we could just give away too, and this might be one of them, or to trickle back into the TEC because you guys are giving birth to us, if you know what I mean. So maybe we can come up with agreements around that sort of thing too. My point about all that was just as a way to defray costs and that sort of thing, so that TEC didn't have to pay all of the costs for that. So that was kind of if I didn't say that explicitly, I wanted to.
I'm sorry I
Nice.
joined
Thank
late.
you. Hi, Auntie.
I'm a bit lost. I'm not sure what are we talking about.
I'll give you a quick recap. So
Thanks.
we were talking about what is a good pathway that Softgov can take, and considering low engagement in calls and low engagement in one perspective, and then really high quality engagement in another perspective. So we have you guys that have been a huge part, a core of Softgov and the things we've been discussing. And I think we have gone in very interesting routes that, like, whenever there's a topic that needs to be raised to the community, it's very nice to have this space here to break it down and then deliver in better ways. And then we were brainstorming around different ideas. So Bear was talking about how we could map the strengths, opportunities, and threats of the TC, and he started a document. And Zeptimus was talking about how we should analyze decisions that affect the community, and that this could be a good space for that. And Gideon was sharing how, like, based on the conversation, how a small group could be very it could be very nice for the community to have a small group that takes care of this, like, intake of issues, and then involves the community with more structure to the case. And then this idea, and Durgadas was sharing about how it's good to observe all the issues that are under the water and understand how we can break them down. And so there was, many sharings on how we could approach this. And then I thought maybe a governance and culture report could be good, that we have an intake of issues, data analysis of them, and then understand the best way to deal with them and communicate to the community how they were dealt with. And then this topic came about, like, cool, this is a good idea, but it keeps adding to the bill, because it would be one more service, let's say, that a working group would be adding to the TC. And even though it's like a public good that could also serve other DAOs, we haven't really been in a position to fund anything. No. I feel like you were going somewhere with this, Gideon. Did you have
Yeah, I was just building on what Zeptimus was saying, which is, we want to do really good governance. We want to build a culture, and yet we have this tension of, like, making sure we're economically sustainable and that we don't run out of money. And so I was just saying that I think that the challenge before us right now is how do we make this culture evolve so that it really embraces economic sustainability, because we can't have one without the other. I mean, that's just so clear to me. That's like, we need both of these things. And so the culture has to evolve in a way that embraces the economic sustainability and the need to generate income. And the income generation has to accept the boundaries of the culture, right? And if we go too far on either one, it's not going to be good. And so I think that's like, that to me seems like, I this is my bias on this, but I feel like, of all of the cultural issues that we're facing right now, this is the most important one. Because if we don't get this right, we're not going to be around in a year. I mean, I hate to sound dramatic, but it's actually true. Like, if we don't figure out a right way to do things, like, like the token gating question is really interesting. Like, I think
Can you explain what token gating means for those of us who don't know?
Yeah, sorry. So this was something that we've been talking about a little bit, but the idea is that if you own the TEC token, then you get access to certain parts of, say, Discord, for example, or you get access to certain websites and services. And so there actually are some ways of doing that are actually very, I find, kind of distasteful and exclusionary. I've been to some DAOs where, like, when you hit that token gate, it's like it just feels very clubby, And so there are some real, and also it goes against some of the like deep principles like that the academy has, right? It's like knowledge should be free, like that's it's like a public good, right? So that's an example of like some culture and mission things that are really serving as like a container, right, for guiding the economics. And yet we also have to kind of be willing to push the edges of this to see where there are ways to incentivize holding the token, right? And what might that look like? Because if we just say, well, all of these things are off limits, then it starts to kind of close down the ability to become sustainable. And so I think those are some of the conversations that I think are really important for us on a cultural layer, in this next phase.
There was a comment Mitch made in the rep in the TC document of like, oh, if we're losing some of the governance aspect of the TC token, what utility we have left with it. And that just like clicked to me how problematic it is to have a token which is only purpose is governance. And I guess the utility conversation is happening in Sample, which I didn't follow for the last 2 weeks. But I think that is the place, and maybe it's a fundamental issue because this should have been thought before the existence of the token, I guess. And even though we were thinking about it in terms of culture, like, oh, the mission, there is it's as if the mission and the token weren't fully connected. Like there's something in the middle that needs to be the glue of it.
Yeah, I would like to say two things. One to add on what Gideon was saying, and one to what Levy was saying. First, with Levy, yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. And it's kind of funny and interesting as well because this utility that the token has of governance, it's actually being used actually for a really few people, like that's the utility. But if you go to the gardens and look at the people actually participating in decisions and taking their tokens, from the other day I got the number from the 400 something, I think, token holders. We have like an average of 4 token holders participating in each proposal, so I feel that's a big sign, saying that, yeah, like that's the utility you get with the token, but also token holders are not using it, or are not using it for some reason, right? So what's that reason? I think that would be...
I want to say something on that. Actually, like abstain is a decision. So like people abstaining is also deciding.
Right. Yeah, true. That's right. But like, for example, if you see the proposals that are passing, they are actually passing some of them with 2 or 3 people voting on them, right? So then you start thinking, how can the tokens of 2 or 3 people can represent the actual will of the other 400 token holders, right? And why are not the other 400 token holders participating in the governance? So I feel those are like some signals that are important to like what you're saying, Safety. Why most token holders are abstaining from participating? What's the reason for that? So I feel all of those are like important questions that might need some analysis and some answer.
Yeah.
If you...
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, just to finish, like to add on what Gideon was saying. Yeah, I feel like another topic related with this part of the economic layer, and something that could be really related with soft governance, is this part of, yeah, we have like we need to figure out the revenues, how to find token utility, but then another crucial part is spending, like the funds that we already have, how are we actually using them? So this ties with the concept of accountability, and I feel that's where Softgov could also start taking an important role. What are the different metrics and methods and processes to track accountability around the different projects, the different proposals, and making sure that the funds and the resources that we already have, they are actually being used in the best way possible, right? Maybe there's room for improvement to become more efficient with what we already have without having the need to get more money, So maybe that could be just like another topic to add on to the conversation. Yeah, so Septi, I don't know. Or Lily, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be quick. We only have 3 minutes. But yeah, we are a DAO, but we are kind of centralized. Like when you say like 4 people is passing proposals, because it's also like how conviction voting works, and it's like 62% or 63, like now probably even bigger, of the token holders. 25 people hold like the 63% of the tokens. That's something like you can see on the team dashboard. And I feel like the problem we're having, like the idea around the trusted seed was like, okay, these people is like not to rogue the commons, but then it's like, where's the rest of the, where are the ruggers, right? Where is the people? Where are the rest of, like, and I feel like we kind of fail with engagement because we really like have like very bureaucratic, and like, starting for the reward, like why are the rewards giving to the same people one again and again? Like there's like, we have really amount of token holders, and we still reward the same people. So like, in order to the bonding curve to work, like we really need volume.
So,
I think.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Durgadas. Let's just be mindful of time.
Oh, I was just saying, as is normal for me, Bear's thing reminded me of a graphic that I made. So, the whole idea, I think that that they're talking about is that if you come from this, abusive extractive culture and economy, and you're so used to giving away your agency and autonomy and other things, it is actually a big cultural thing that I think in token engineering commons we're doing better than anyone, but there's obviously always room for improvement. You don't just get to just jump over and call yourself a DAO, because you have all this other stuff that you have to do. Do you even know how to be a DAO? Do you know how to decolonize yourself sufficiently so that you know how to assume the responsibility of working in a participatory democracy? And so I kind of made this to kind of highlight the fact that a lot of DAOs kind of miss that part, but education takes time, energy, effort from everybody, and so it's not as simple as just that there's something we're doing wrong, but there's just an awful lot of legacy cultural code base that comes with people when they come over from the previous system. So I just wanted to sort of give that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. We are on the top of the hour. I just wanted to say that I think we've been doing that second step a lot. I feel like what has been bringing the challenge that of lack of engagement is actually the lack of content related to our mission. So I don't feel like it's like, I don't think we are super centralized also. I think the participation we have in the TEC, voter participation, is higher than in a lot of DAOs. It's just we haven't been having much token engineering activity or proposals that are advancing token engineering, and I think we're like all aware of that, and that's why this work in the financial direction is happening, and maybe the engagement we need to find. Yeah, go ahead.
Like you just said, like we are not decentralized, but honestly, like to make any DAO voting decision with the parameters we have right now, like there is a couple of only one people that could block any decision. Just one people, and not only one. There is a couple of people who could just only by himself block any DAO voting decision. So for me, that's kind of centralized.
True. Yeah, that is fair. Let's maybe that is one topic we need to dive more into. And thank you everybody for joining. This was a chaotic meeting, but it was very important, I think. Good insights.
Thanks, Levi.
Thanks, everyone.
So
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye
enjoy
bye.
your time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Livy.